Hello and welcome to my channel. So a lot of really weird and interesting things happened last week on the internet. I think the first thing that kind of took me by surprise was the conversation around Black women in protection that was started when a young woman named Ro made an impassioned plea for an explanation as to why she was walking down the street. She was hit with a brick. There's more to the story, but I'm not interested in that. She was hit with a brick and none of the men, specifically Black men, who were around her came to her aid. This resulted in a ripple of conversations about Black women and who deserves protection and who doesn't. And all in all, it was definitely a big event that happened in social media last week and that is still spilling over into this week. We also had really absurd things like the apology that Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis made and posted on their Instagram in reaction to the fact that the public found out that they had written character letters for their friend Danny Masterson because he was up for sentencing in a trial where he was accused of assault. He was given a 30-year sentence, and once he was sentenced, the fact that they had tried to intervene for his leniency was leaked to the public, but I'm not really going to talk about that either. What I do want to talk about, however, is the fallout that a young 29-year-old woman faced when she posted a video on her TikTok account about her routine as a 29-year-old single woman.
It's 10:45 a.m. on a Saturday. I am 29 and single and I don't have kids yet. Here's what your Saturday morning looks like when you're single at 29 and you don't have a kid running around the house. I didn't rise from my bed until 10:15. Every time I thought, I should probably get up and do something. I thought, why? Nobody's making me. I'm not missing out on anything. I went to Beyonce last night and I didn't get home until 1 a.m. and I danced and drank my little heart out and I didn't pay a babysitter to watch my kids as I did that. And I woke up a tad hungover this morning, which is probably why I was in bed for so long. And I was just scrolling on my phone and I saw a picture of shakshuka and I thought, you know what sounds really good? Maybe I'm gonna learn how to make shakshuka today. Because I have no plans and I don't have kids and I don't have a husband and I don't have errands to run. I can go to the grocery store and learn how to make shakshuka. So that's on my agenda today. Also on my agenda, probably a rewatch of some Real Housewives of New York. I'm also doing a rewatch of Normal People on Hulu, which is really spicy and I highly recommend. Weirdly, I'm into this documentary on Netflix about blue zone countries. So I've got a pretty stacked day. Anyway, I say all this to say, whenever I'm hard on myself about why I'm not married and I don't have kids and I should be further along at 29, almost 30, I wouldn't want to do anything else this Saturday. And I know that you can do all these things when you have kids and you're married, and I understand, but the effortlessness and ease of my life, just kind of focusing on myself and the shakshuka I want to make or the Beyonce concert I want to go to, really pays off when I'm hard on myself for not being where society tells me I should be in life.
Now, I do want to say about this type of content, I used to make a lot of this type of content, especially when I had a TikTok account. And a lot of times when people are making this kind of content, and as I went through her account, it was clearer and clearer to me. But a lot of times when people are making this kind of content and they started off with those qualifiers, I'm 29, I'm single, I don't have kids, it's because they are wrestling with that concept at that time. They're trying to come to terms with it themselves. They're trying to understand how they feel about it. And so that's why they're creating content around those qualifiers. To me, I look at it and I'm not like, oh, this person's having a really great time. I look at her content and I'm like, oh, okay, I can tell she's kind of struggling with this, which totally understandable. I totally get it. And that's why she's chosen to take this angle when it comes to producing content on social media, especially when she has a video that's not too far back in her timeline where she talks about being in a recent relationship that she just got out of. So I'm guessing that she did not expect to still be single when she was 29. I do respect her though. I do respect what she's doing with her content. I think it's fantastic to be able to build a platform off of that type of thing, because that means that you have to come across to people as somebody who is not whiny or who's not coming across as like, woe is me, I hate being in this situation. Even if that is what your heart is actually feeling, you can't come across like that, because nobody likes to be associated with somebody who seems outwardly like they're really miserable and they don't like themselves. And I speak from experience. I should actually have merch. I really should, that says I speak from experience. But anyway, she posted that video, and I think we can all agree that despite my little insights that I paid to it, for the most part, that video is completely unproblematic. However, something happened to her that tends to happen to women a lot when they come on camera, they come on the internet, and they talk about their experience being single and being childless. And that is, a man picks it up and drags them through the mud And in this situation, the man that picked it up happened to be a very, very prominent conservative blogger, video creator, tweeter, media personality. He reposted it to his platform of millions and millions of people who think just like him, and she was cyberbullied and she was sent death threats. And it just made me wonder, why does the internet hate single women so much? So I came up with a couple of theories, and most of the theories are derived not only from what I saw happen to her, but from what I've seen happen to other women who are single who come forward to talk about how they feel about that experience, sometimes to complain or to rant. And they are often met with the same reality, maybe not at the same level of her, but they're met with the same reality that she was met with, which is a lot of pushback, usually from men. People tend to think when women are single that it is a choice, especially if the woman appears to be more attractive, more learned, more of a catch. If she's single, then there must be something that she's doing wrong. She has chosen this life, and so therefore she needs to just shut up or go out and find a man. There's nothing stopping her. And if she doesn't shut up and become more proactive about getting out of this terrible state of being, then she's going to end up an old crazy cat lady. In fact, somebody did tweet that about this young woman, that they saw cats and loneliness in her future. So here's something I've always wanted to talk about when it comes to dating, is this concept of singleness always being a choice, especially for women. Singleness is most often a reflection of the community that you find yourself within. And community is based on way more than the color of your skin, your level of education, so on and so forth. A lot of times a community is just a group of people who come together who have similar needs, wants, and desires. And if you happen to be in a community that you really align with, and there are people there that are open to partnership and they're open to partnership with you, you have a better chance of being partnered. And obviously, the more people that view you as a possible partner, the more likely that you are going to end up partnered. So when someone comes along and they say, hey, I'm this age, I'm still single, etc., etc. To me, I'm not thinking, oh, it's just because you want to be, you're being picky. That's all there is to it. To me, I say, oh, well, it's probably because you're not within the right community, or within the community that you're in, you're not aligning with people who are viewing you as partners and you're viewing them the same way. And of course, when you add in factors like location, education, race, all of these different compounding factors that can affect someone's visibility and potential within a specific community for partnership, you have a million different stories that can be told about why someone is unpartnered. So the fact that people always come down to the summary of, oh, well, that's what they want, that's what they chose, it is so unfair. Another thing that gets me is when people talk about childless women and they say, oh, well, they're just selfish. Women who don't have children are selfish, and they are going to be the reason why the population dies out. And not choosing to have a child means that, or not having a child means that you want to live a meaningless life filled with only indulging in yourself. I don't understand how people still in this day and age, in 2023, still believe that the only reason why somebody doesn't have a child is because they chose not to. How is that the case? No matter how many times people talk about fertility issues, not just physical fertility, but social fertility as well. It goes back to that concept of being within the right community. When you're in the right community, especially in the right community at the right time, you got a lot of different people that you align with, and a lot of different people are looking for partners, and you're the type of person that people have identified as a specific type of partner that they are interested in. That's a very, very fertile time. But those situations change based on age, location, on so many other factors. So until you find the right situation for you, you might spend a lot of years dealing with social infertility. It is a real thing, and it does affect your ability to reproduce. And a lot of times people will choose their peace of mind over consistently chasing after and trying to get a partner just so that they can reproduce and have a family. And I think also what people tend to ignore is the fact that raising kids is not cheap, is the fact that raising kids is not always a successful venture. It's not an easy venture. There's a presumption of circumstance when it comes to childless women. And a lot of times that presumption of circumstance comes from people who are looking at them from a condescending perspective. And it's this idea that you chose a meaningless life when you could have been a mother. And not only is it not fair to people who were unable to become mothers because of either biological infertility or social infertility or some other reason, but it's also unfair because it just isn't true. Sometimes the greatest way a woman can serve society, a woman can be of service to her neighbors, her friends, her family, is by offering herself and having that time that she might have devoted to children, but having it to devote to her community, to her work, to the people around her who need her assistance. So it's a very, very unfair presumption, and people do it all the time. One of the things I noticed was that when this particular young woman posted her video, there was a lot of anger. Usually when young women talk about their singleness online, there is pity, there's mockery, or there's anger. And that usually comes from men, or it can come from other women who just don't understand how somebody could be single past a certain age, how somebody could have not had a kid past a certain age. Basically, those responses will come from anybody who lacks the ability to empathize or put themselves in that person's shoes. And I noticed that with this particular woman, it wasn't just those responses, because they were all in there, but it was also just rage. It seemed like the man who took and reposted her content was angry at her. And when I looked at a lot of his tweets and I was trying to understand, like, why is he responding this way? I feel like on some subconscious level, he feels that her lifestyle and the way she lives and people that talk about how great that lifestyle is negating in some way his lifestyle and the way he lives. And I'm not going to say that he is not wrong. That rhetoric is definitely out there. I was driving down the road one day and I literally saw a bulletin board that was celebrating people for not having children and not reproducing. And I think that the more you see that kind of rhetoric, if you have chosen to have children and to reproduce, you get defensive. And so you're looking online and you're looking at things and whatever, and it's like, here's another person mocking the life that I have chose. That's the only way that I can humanize the enemy in this situation, is just to basically say, you on your last straw, huh? You're tired of people criticizing your way of life and your choices. So you're like, I'm going to fight back. But the thing is she never spoke against anybody that had decided to do that. She never said, oh, if you have kids and you do whatever, I feel sorry for you. She simply was talking about her own reality, which then brings me to another point. I think there was a lot of confusion. Why is a woman like this, 29 and single with no kids, why is she saying these things? I think from his perspective, because she is a white, blonde-haired woman, she does talk about coming from a religious background in some of her content. I think from his perspective, she is the type of woman in his community, in his very conservative, Christian, white, cisgender community. She's the type of woman that people would choose. So the fact that she has chosen to remain like this and she's flaunting this way of life, in his mind, it's just preposterous and it's ridiculous. That's the best way I can make sense of how he reacted to her. But I think it all comes down to what I initially said before, which is just a basic lack of empathy. It's a presumption of circumstance. And it's just a very unfair way of looking at the lives of women who seem to be walking a path that is not the norm. And that's also not true. In fact, the statistics around singlehood are that there are a lot of people who are living unmarried, who do not have children, who are single past a certain age. They just don't promote it on the internet in a certain way. I think they just aren't public about it because, of course, they might face the backlash that this young woman has faced and a lot of young women before her have faced. What I really liked about this particular situation, though, was how many people came to her aid. This young woman is different, I feel, than some people who talk about their single life because she's taken it. She started a podcast and she interviews women out there or people out there who are doing things with their lives that are not considered the norm. They're not settled down. They're doing something else. They're focusing on other parts of their lives, which I think is a very powerful thing to do. Take what you're struggling with and turn it into something that impacts media and impacts art in a more positive way. And like I said before, she's been able to build quite the platform off of presenting her information the way she does. And so because of that, she had a lot of good karma coming to her, and a lot of people stepped up and they defended her. They went to bat for her in its comment section against people who were like, yeah, women like her, they're the enemy and they're the reason why we're gonna not have a population and all of that business. She had people who came to her aid, and I thought that that was wonderful. But that doesn't always happen. A lot of times a woman will say, hey, I'm single, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a specific age, and oh my God, the ridicule that will come for her on the internet. And I've said this before, I think that that's unfortunate because people end up feeling like they're all alone. They're going through something by themselves. At the end of the day, I understand why people have a problem with single women so much. I understand, and when I say people, a lot of times I mean men. I understand why that is, but it doesn't excuse it. Single women should be able to come online. They should be able to talk about how this makes them feel, how that makes them feel, They should be able to say, I did nothing with my Saturday, and not be accused of living a meaningless life even though they have a abundance of free time. What people do to single people that is unfair, and this is both single men and women, is they assume that, oh, because you don't have a family to tend to or this or that, you should be out saving the world in some regard. People who are going to save the world are going to save the world whether they're partnered or whether they're by themselves. Being single does not mean that you have to go out and be a warrior. It just means that you are paying rent by yourself. And that's it. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one. As usual, you can let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.